In this video, I want to explain supply-side fiscal policy. So let's compare that to demand-side fiscal policy. Demand-side fiscal policy are fiscal policies that emphasize lower taxes or increase government spending to stimulate the economy. So Keynesian-influenced fiscal policy emphasized that the way to restore prosperity is to jumpstart the economy through lower taxes or more spending. Supply-side fiscal policy, sometimes known as Reaganomics because these policies were implemented in the 1980s, emphasized policies that shifted the short-run aggregate supply curve to the right. A rightward shift causes prices in the economy to go down and output to expand. It emphasized that supply drives prosperity. Emphasized policies that focused on producing more goods and services. In other words, the policies included things that lowered barriers to creating and producing more goods and services. So demand-side fiscal policy, by shifting the aggregate demand curve to the right, causes the price level to rise and output to expand. But in the 1970s, the economy was experiencing stagflation. Stagflation was a situation in which we were experiencing a higher price level, inflation, and lower output and higher unemployment. So with stagflation, economists were worried that stimulating the economy through demand-side policies would simply cause more inflation, and more inflation would put the economy in peril. So in the 1970s and into the early 80s, a group of economists influenced by Arthur Laffer suggested that policies that would shift the supply curve to the right would alleviate that inflationary pressure by driving prices down and encouraging economic expansion. The idea is that lower barriers to produce goods and services will really stimulate the economy. It'll benefit consumers because consumers will benefit from the production of more goods and services at a lower price. An expanded production would also employ more people. So there was a whole suite of policies that government adopted to shift the supply curve to the right, or in other words, to remove barriers to production. Some of those included restricting labor laws. Others included general deregulation of the economy. So privatizing public resources, for example, such as trash collection. It also focused on policies that encouraged more competition. So free trade with other nations will be one of those by allowing more businesses to compete, thus encouraging them to adopt policies that are more efficient in production, thereby lowering prices. Supply-siders also sought policies that increased labor productivity and skills. So they emphasized programs that would encourage research and development to develop new technologies to produce goods cheaper. They also focused on policies that would lower the burden on producers through regulation. So maybe, for example, eliminating environmental laws that put an additional burden of production on producers. By eliminating those, their costs go down and they're able to produce goods cheaper. They were also influenced by the ideas of Arthur Laffer and the Laffer curve, which you've heard about in this class. The idea is that higher tax rates discourage the incentive to produce more goods. It discourages the incentive to work more hours. The idea behind Laffer is that we could achieve economic prosperity by lowering the tax rate. By lowering the tax rate on producers and households, we encourage more production. So those lower tax rates would have the effect of shifting the aggregate supply curve to the right, and thereby lowering the price level and encouraging production. The history of supply-side economics is a bit mixed. Did it cause prosperity or did it not? And those are complicated questions to look at. And I would say our current economic policies that we use to encourage the economic growth and to achieve full employment are certainly a mix of demand-side policies and supply-side policies. It's still an area of great debate in macroeconomics.